immerse yourself into the world of Creepy Man. He's waiting for you.
Welcome back, dear viewers, to another spine-chilling episode of Mr. Creepy Man. Tonight, we delve into the unsettling journey of Emily, a college student who discovers that some vintage treasures are better left untouched. Dim the lights, brace yourselves, and let the darkness unfold. Emily had just moved from the serene mountains of Vermont to the bustling city of Chicago to attend college. She found herself in a cozy but slightly aged apartment located about 30 minutes from her campus. Her parents, who had come to help her settle in, spent the next 2 days setting up her new home. During the move, they stumbled upon a weathered cardboard box left by the previous tenant, which they set aside, dismissing it as junk. As Emily's parents prepared to leave, her mom paused at the door, holding her tightly. "I feel uneasy leaving you here," she confessed, her voice trembling. Emily brushed it off with a smile, unaware of the events that would soon turn her life into a living nightmare. 3 days after her parents left, Emily noticed the neglected cardboard box while cleaning her balcony for a small party she had planned. The box, now soaked and foul-smelling, inexplicably drew her in. Inside, she found a vintage camera and an old roll of film. Intrigued, she discarded the film and loaded the camera with fresh film, eager to test it. As she examined the camera, she noticed faint initials carved into its metal body, JK. A strange, cold breeze swept through her closed apartment, sending shivers down her spine. She dismissed it as her imagination and set the camera on her desk. That evening, Emily began hearing strange sounds, soft whispers and faint clicking noises, like a camera shutter coming from the living room. When she investigated, the room was empty, and the camera was exactly where she had left it. But as she turned to leave, the lens moved slightly, focusing on her. Shaken but rationalizing it as paranoia, she decided to ignore the incident. That night, her dreams were filled with fragmented images of a figure holding the camera, their face obscured but grinning widely. While cleaning her living room the next morning, Emily noticed something unusual. A framed photo of her family on the shelf had been altered. Behind her parents in the picture, a blurry figure with an unnatural grin loomed in the background. She was certain it hadn't been there before. Startled, she replaced the photo with another one and went to wash her hands. When she returned, the frame was empty, its glass shattered on the floor. As she bent down to clean up the mess, she noticed her reflection in the glass was grinning back at her, even though her face was frozen in fear. The next day, Emily spent the afternoon photographing the plants outside her window, her charming neighbor Mrs. Kaushik, and her curious cat lounging on the balcony. She developed the photos at a nearby studio and gifted the neighbor a few pictures. Mrs. Kaushik thanked her for the pictures. But something about her seemed off. Her movements were stiff, and her smile was unnervingly wide. Later, as Emily reviewed the photos, she noticed something sinister. A faint shadow with a wide, unnatural grin lingering in the background of every photo, even the ones she took of the cat. Her heart sank when she realized the shadow resembled her. Determined to test the camera further, Emily snapped a photo of herself in the mirror. As the camera clicked, the mirror cracked violently, splitting her reflection into distorted fragments. Startled, she dropped the camera. When she looked back, her reflection wasn't mimicking her. It stood still, holding the camera and staring at her, grinning with the same wide, unnatural smile as the shadow. Terrified, she covered the mirror and left the room, but the sound of muffled laughter followed her down the hallway. Later that day, Emily took the elevator to visit her landlord to inquire about the box left in her apartment. The elevator lights flickered as it ascended. Suddenly, the cabin jolted to a stop, leaving her trapped between floors. As she pressed the emergency button, she caught sight of her own reflection in the metallic doors. It was distorted, with hollow eyes and a wide grin. Panicking, she looked away, only to hear the faint sound of a camera shutter clicking behind her. When the elevator finally moved again, she bolted out, her hands trembling. That night, Emily dreamed of Mrs. Kaushik standing on her balcony with an unnerving grin. Suddenly, shadowy hands emerged from behind her, holding a shard of glass and pulling her into the darkness. Emily woke up drenched in sweat, only to find Mrs. Kaushik's cat pacing around her bed. The room bore faint blood-like stains on the walls and floor. The following evening, as Emily prepared dinner, the lights flickered, plunging the apartment into darkness. She grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight, only to see shadowy figures darting across the walls. The figures seemed to converge near the vintage camera, which emitted a faint, unnatural glow. Emily was jolted awake by a loud banging on her front door. Peeking through the peephole, she saw Mrs. Kaushik standing outside, her face pale and her grin unnaturally wide. Emily hesitated, but before she could act, Mrs. Kaushik whispered through the door, "It's too late, Emily. You're one of us now." Panicking, Emily backed away, but the banging grew louder. When she finally mustered the courage to open the door, no one was there. Only the faint sound of a camera shutter echoed in the hallway. The following morning, Emily reviewed the photos on the camera one last time. The shadowy figure was no longer in the background. It was now standing directly behind her in every image, its grin growing wider with each shot. The final photo showed her asleep in bed, with the figure leaning over her, holding the camera. Terrified, Emily ran to Mrs. Kaushik's apartment, but it was empty. The furniture was gone, and the room looked as though it hadn't been lived in for years. On the dusty floor, she found a single photo of herself standing on her balcony, smiling eerily. As the days passed, Emily pieced together the photos she had taken, noticing that the shadowy figure became more defined with each picture, and resembling her, standing in the background with that same chilling grin. The final photo showed Emily in her living room, holding the discarded roll of film, with Mrs. Kaushik and other shadowy figures grinning menacingly behind her. Panicking, Emily tried to destroy the camera by throwing it in the trash, but as soon as she did, it clicked on its own. The sound was followed by her phone buzzing with a notification. A new photo had been uploaded to her gallery. It showed her standing in the middle of her apartment, surrounded by shadowy figures. Emily vanished the following night. Her friends, concerned after days of silence, entered her apartment with the landlord. They found no trace of her, only a vintage camera and an undeveloped roll of film. Months later, her younger brother used the camera, capturing a tree outside their home. When the photo was developed, Emily stood behind the tree, grinning eerily. Horrified by the photo, he took the camera to the police. The camera was then locked away as an evidence, but strange reports soon emerged. Officers handling the case claimed to hear faint whispers and see grinning figures in their peripheral vision. One officer took a photo of the evidence room out of curiosity. When it was developed, Emily's grinning face was there, staring back at him. And so Emily became a part of the camera's cursed legacy, leaving behind unanswered questions and lingering terror. Did the camera choose her, or was she destined to find it? What would you do if you found a vintage camera lying in the trash? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Creepy Man, and hit the bell icon to ensure you never miss another unsettling tale. You're the heart of our community, and your support means the world to us. Do you have your own real-life creepy encounters or spooky stories to share? We'd love to hear them. Send your chilling tales to mrcreepymanpod@gmail.com, and who knows, your story might just be featured in one of our upcoming videos. Stay safe, stay spooky, and we'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep the lights on. See you soon. Bye.